is your Frog Ease floater system. This is the main chemicals in your tub. This is a chemical startup kit, and this is a chlorine refill, box of chlorine refills. In your chemical startup kit, it includes instructions that are similar to the instructions on this paper. It has a mineral cartridge. It has test strips, jumpstart shock, and this is a chlorine refill. Now, you get 3 of these in this other package here, refills for a total of 4. The reason they do that is because if you have a tub, say around 300 gallons or so, you may get by with maybe once a month having to change these refills out, 3 to 4 weeks, something like that. And this is supposed to last the mineral cartridge for 4 months. So by the time you use your last chlorine refill, then the mineral cartridge is bad. So you just replace it all over again when you run out of your refills. And then these just twist and lock together. You just twist them and lock them. And there's a dial on the bottom of this right here. It's probably got a picture of it right there. There's a dial on the bottom that you're going to open up to get you the right amount of chlorine into the water. So this is your system that's all put together. These just twist and lock onto here, and they just go one way. You just twist it and lock it, and there's your dial on the bottom that you're going to open up to get you the right amount of chlorine into the water. There's a chart on both of these instructions that tell you how many gallons each one of these numbers is good for. So I'll preset that whenever we put it in. Now, whenever this goes in the water, the weight of the chlorine in that bottom silver part holds it down like this. Whenever the chlorine runs out, this is supposed to turn upside down, letting you know that it's empty. But I recommend that you mark on your calendar about 3 weeks or so after you put it in and start paying closer attention to your test strips on your chlorine level. Make sure that it hasn't filled up with water and it's staying floating down. So just check that. This is everything that's in your Frog floater system. It has test strips in here too that I didn't go over a while ago. You'll never have to buy a test strip separately because these test strips will last you until you run out, and you'll get them again in the starter kit. You have to use these particular test strips with this product. You can't use just regular chlorine test strips you get for a pool that won't read the chlorine properly. This is your pre-filter for the tub. We really recommend that you use a pre-filter filling your tub that screws on the end of your water hose. This is good for about 2,000 gallons, so most tubs that'll fill your tub approximately 4 times or so, and it's time to replace it. This is not as critical that you use this on city water, good city water, but it's really critical that you use it on well water. So make sure you use your pre-filter. And it's a good idea to run the pre-filter into your filter compartment and let it fill through here. There's less of a chance of a pump being airlocked when you start the tub up if you do that. Your other chemicals, this is a OxyShock. It breaks down body oil, sweat, and contaminants and stuff. This is your Protection Plus, which is a stain and a scale preventative and a clarifier. Really important that you use this because you'll have chemical problems in your tub, even if you have good water, if you don't use this more than likely. And this is really important, again, on well water that you use this. Then you have a pH up and a pH down to raise and lower your pH. And you have a bottle of foam away. And these will come with a little mister that goes on the top of it where you can just mist it over the foam and it usually dissipates. If you continue to have a foaming issue, you need to dig to the bottom of it and find out what's going on versus just keeping on treating it because you mess your water up. Protection Plus, you're going to add an ounce to that on startup, and you're going to put the bag of shock that was in this box on startup. And that's the only thing you're putting in when you first start the tub up. Okay, so an ounce of control. Once it's full, check the pH and the alkalinity. And it's not a bad idea to go ahead and check all that stuff before you put any chemicals in the tub at all. If your pH is way off, your chemicals won't work well. So make sure you get your pH right. And then before you put the floater in, the water needs to come up to at least 80 degrees or better for the floater to operate properly. So when I'm out installing a hot tub, we're going to be adding the Protection Plus, and we're going to be checking to see if we need to do anything with the alkalinity or the pH, and we're going to be putting that package of shock in. Okay, so that's what we do whenever we start it up. And then once the water comes up to 80 degrees, then you can put the floater in. And then the next day, you can check it with your test strips to see what your chlorine level's like, because this is a slow disperse on this ball. It takes it a while to get into the water good. So give it a while to get into the water. The chart that I mentioned earlier that has the dial on it on the bottom of this here, so you can determine how much chlorine to put into the water, and it tells you how many gallons each one of these numbers is good for. Every week, check it with the test strips. And this is regardless on whether you're using the tub or not. Be out here weekly checking it with the test strips. This gets you out here making sure that nothing has gone wrong with your tub. You're not having any issues and you're not aware of it, which is a lot, really important during the winter time. your tub can freeze, and you not catch it. It does have a freeze protection on the tub. So when the water gets down to 44 degrees or colder, it's supposed to kick on a pump and run it to keep it from freezing. But if the breaker trips and the tub sits out here for a couple weeks, it could freeze on you. So I just kind of bring that up. It's kind of, when you get out here looking at it weekly with your test strips, you're avoiding that. If whatever we add were chemicals, we're supposed to add them away from the filter compartment. So in this particular tub here, it would be over in center that front seat over here, so that the chemicals get taken into the water good before they get pulled into the filter. Now, on most of these tubs, they have pumps on them that have a 15-minute timeout on. At the end of 15 minutes, when they've been running on high, they'll shut themselves off. And that's the length of time that you need to leave a pump running after you've added the chemicals. Leave a pump running for 15 minutes, and then your chemicals are mixed in really well. Don't get in the tub for 2 hours after you've added in chemicals. Now that doesn't affect the floater. You can put the floater in any time. But any chemicals, wait 2 hours before you get in the tub, and give whatever you put in the tub maybe 2-3 hours to work before you check it again with your test strip. Every month you need to take your filters out and clean them. And that's with the tub powered down. Take the filters out, take them apart if there's one inside the other. Use a spray nozzle on the water hose and spray them off really good in a downward motion to get them clean. It has to have good water pressure to get them clean. Kitchen sink or bathtub will not get them clean. So rinse them out really good and then put them back in. And then they recommend that every 3 months you clean your filters with a cleaner. Now, you don't get that in your kit. You have to buy that here at the store. But they recommend that to help keep your filters clean. And that can vary widely on whether 3 months is okay or how much you need to use it. Depends a lot on your water and how good you take care of it, how much chemicals you have to add. If you're on well water, probably contributes to that also. So every 3 months, clean it with the cleaner. Now that orange filter, if you have a tub that has that in it, it's called an EcoPure filter, and it has minerals and metals embedded in the filter. And if you clean it with the cleaner, you'll ruin it. So your outside pleated filters are the only ones that you can clean with the cleaner. So clean them every 3 months. And then don't keep track of like 4 months or whatever the length of time is when this runs out. Just whether it's 3 months, 5 months, whatever the length of time is, when this runs out, just buy it over again and start over again with the whole package. These chemicals here will last you a lot longer. You shouldn't have to replace these near as often as this, maybe every 3 to 4 months, something like that. Okay, on that EcoPure filter we were just talking about, this is it. And it just goes inside of this pleated filter. It just goes down in place and it just twists and locks in place. And that's all there is to it. Back out. Just make sure this one does not get the filter cleaner used on it or you'll ruin it. So if you start seeing these pleats on the side of the filter start bunching together like that and getting gaps between them and they're looking all crooked going down the side and looking down on the bottom of the pleats on the filters all nasty and you can't get it clean, that's probably getting closer to time to replace the filter. If you start having alarms come up on your topside control telling you that the heater's dry or low flow or an issue with your heater not working, filters usually cause that. And that could be contributing to it where you just may need to replace your filter. If you're having those alarms come up more than once a month and you're having to clean your filters more often than once a month, then it's time to replace it. On this floater system here, it's going to be bouncing all over the tub when you're in using the tub. It doesn't have to stay in the tub while you're using it. You can set it out on something when you're in the tub using it so it's just not hopping all over the place. Just be careful if you set it out because it's got chemicals in it, it could stain something. Every 6 months, you need to drain your tub and replace the water in it. There's a drain behind the front panel usually, but it's just as easy or probably a lot easier to siphon it out with a water hose or to put a little sump pump in it. But every 6 months, you need to drain your tub. And a good way to time that is to let your chlorine refill run out before you drain your tub. Because when you fill your water back up in the tub again, you got to put a fresh dose of shock in. And if you do, you got a half of a chlorine ball left, then they're out of time with each other because those should go in at the same time. So let your chlorine ball run out, drain the tub, wipe everything down with like a microfiber cloth, and then fill it back up again into the filter compartment with your pre-filter. This particular topside control on this tub, you have to rotate it and you have to push it down to make it work. So every time you rotate it, it goes to a different setting on here, whether it's pumps or heater or all on or all off or whatever, lights, where you can, and then if you want to change anything when you're at that, you just push down on the control like this, and then you can set it on the temperature you want. Yeah, that's pump one. On low the I, you have a control for pump two. Most tubs will have two pumps on them. And here's your lights. So every time you turn these lights off and on, they should do something different. They'll either stay one color, or they'll gradually fade from one color to another, or they may abruptly change from one color to another. If you turn this off and you leave and you come back later, this is probably going to go right back to where you had it as far as the color. so you don't have to change anything. And this should have maybe, I'm guessing, a 4 hour timeout on it. So if you run off, you forget that you leave the lights running, then they'll shut off. There's a place where you can go to on your top side control that has settings, so you can go in and set your date and your time and everything on it and check your filter cycles. And then there's a one on it that says flip. So if you push it on flip, it'll make it where you can read it from either inside the tub or outside the tub. Filter compartment here. It has two filters down in it, actually three filters, but this is different on all the different tubs. It just depends on what tub you have. But that's your filter compartment. Usually inside the filter compartment or around the filter compartment, there'll be a sticker that tells you the minimum maximum water fill level line. It'll have the serial number on your tub. On most tubs, the top row of button lights coincides with your water level on the tub, the biggest part of the tub. You always want to have the tub full of water before you start it up. If you don't, then it'll starve for water in your filter compartment, you get air in the system, and any jets that aren't underwater, it will just blow water out of the tub. They'll have to be full of water before you fire it up. These are neck and shoulder jets here. They're designed to run partially out of the water, so it doesn't hurt anything if they're out of the water, but maybe one I can show you about turning them on and off. So if you rotate it counterclockwise until it stops, then it's all the way open. And then go clockwise, it's about maybe 90 degrees or something. Just turn it back, and when it goes all the way to stop, then you're restricting the flow of water coming out of it. You should have that on every jet in this tub. So you could even turn off the jets in one seat and get more in another seat. But just don't restrict your flow too much on the jets because you don't want to make it hard on the pumps trying to push water out in the tub. But that's usually not any kind of an issue. The one on the far side I was at just a while ago turns its waterfall off and on. These two right here let it draw air in with the water as the pump pushes the water out into the tub through your jets. The water will look bubbly and foamy coming out of these and it'll feel stronger to you. You just operate them at your discretion. This bigger control on the other side of the tub over here is your diverter. So your pump is one of your pumps is run through that diverter. And it's going to make it switch from one set of jets to the other depending on which way you turn that. It can be all the way to one side, all the way to the other, in the middle. If you notice that that diverter is really hard to turn because you got the pump turned on high, sometimes all that water flowing through that valve makes it hard to turn. Just turn it off or turn it back on low before you turn it so that you don't break it. Okay, I want to finish kind of explaining what's down in the tub. I kind of went over a while ago about being able to turn your jets off and on by rotating them. Also in your tub, I told you had button lights around here, and you have another light in the base of the tub right on the footwell there. That's an LED light. You have returns in the footwell. That's what all these screens are because it needs to have water pulling through them. It can't get enough through the filters to satisfy the pump. So that's what the returns are for. These returns have air plumbed into them. So if somebody gets down on the bottom of the tub and trying to get their hair stuck on it, like a kid playing in here or something, you can get off of it. That's what that air relief is for. So that's a safety on them. Okay, this jet in the bottom of the tub here, that's right underneath that big Master Blaster jet, that's about the size of a $50 or whatever, that's called your ozonator. It breaks down oxygen in the water and puts ozone in the water. This helps with your water chemistry. Anytime your pump is running, that will make it heat or go into a filter cycle, it'll make your ozonator work. So you should see little fine bubbles coming out of it and just floating up to the top when that ozonator is working. I've just given the presentation that I always give when I'm out installing a hot tub. I always ask if there's any questions. I'll answer them while I'm there. So if you have any questions over this presentation, you can call the store at Castings at 573-243-3591, and they'll be able to help you out.